Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I want to thank you guys for joining me for another replay battle. Today I've got something pretty cool to show you in terms of the scale of this spectacle. It is awesome. This is a 3v5 scenario. I can't remember exactly who made it. I think it might have been Sin of the Dark Cloud or Dreezy or one of the developers on the team. But this is hard mode for the defenders. It is intended to be a tiered defense. So we're going to be... well, we, the orcs, are going to be carving our way through three very elite, very heavily entrenched elven forces here on the Thranduil's realm map. And it is pretty damned intense, let me tell you. So without any further ado, let's take a look at some of the army comps, and then we can jump into the replay itself. I hope you guys enjoy it. So the first army we're going to look at today is the forces of the Witch Realm of Angmar, being commanded by yours truly. I have quite an astounding elite force. I've got some Witch Realm Scourge Raiders here, which I actually get to show off their new model here for once, which is pretty cool. And that jet black obsidian looking armor, they just look so cool and very, very appropriate for the successors of the Witch King's army. Over here we got some upgraded Black Watch Legion, who are just nasty, nasty indeed. Gonna have some Witch Realm Blackguard, which I think is where my general's gonna be hanging out today. Yes, indeed. There's my Black Numenorian. And I got some Good and Bad Guard here, show off their new model and their new skin to my Cowering Coma. Very sexy indeed, very reminiscent of the Hobbit movies. Also got some Witch Realm Hammer Guard, yes indeed. Very strong AP unit with 2 HP, a lot of armor, and of course a fairly high attack value as well. I've got some Angmar Halberds here to form kind of the chaff of my army. Another unit there of the Witch Realm Scourge Raiders. Got some Witch Realm Pikemen as well. They all share the same kind of basic model as their other Witch Realm equivalent units. And then I got some Orc Fellers here. Nasty shock infantry unit, but not exactly of the greatest quality. They do make up for it, however, by having 253 men in the unit, which is enormous. Another unit there of the Orc Fellers, and then my front line is a bunch of Guardians of Karn Doom, who serve kind of a dual-purpose role in the armies of Angmar. They are an Inspire unit, so they're very useful for keeping some of the chaff in line, but they are also a strong medium infantry pick, which makes them ideal for forming the core of your army. In any case, moving on over here, I got a unit of Trolls of Gundabad, and I think I have some Trolls of Angmar hiding around in here somewhere. Yes, indeed, I have them. Unfortunately, they don't have a jet black armor upgrade, so they look a little bit out of place here with their rusty armor in the in amongst the rest of the orderly and very professionally armed and armored Angmar troops. But hey, they're trolls, they're shock troops. You're probably not going to get them the best quality stuff. Anyway, but that does it for my army. Let's move on to one of my allies. This is the Army of Mordor, which, a little bit of a note here, the Army of Mordor is only allowed to engage after we have destroyed the first tier of elven defenses, that being Lothlorien. So they are not allowed to move until we destroy Lothlorien. But in any case, this is being commanded by Arturos. He's got some Black Legion of Barad-dûr. He's also got some Mordor Archers, a lot of Mordor Archers, some Sauron's Will, unit of Temple Guard, and some Temple Inquisitors here to show off their little armor upgrade. If you look very closely, you can actually see that there is a set of human eyes peeking out of there, which is cool to see. They don't have their chainmail ghost faces anymore, which is nice. Got some troll drummers as well. Take a look at the model. It's just so nice. It's such a nice, refreshing change from the very dated Third Age models that the trolls previously used. And this is being brought to you by Crimson Bahelite, so great job there to him. Mordon Heavy Maulers, Melkor's Chosen, nasty anti-cavalry unit. I got some Minas Morgul Chosen as well, which is, they used to inspire, I don't think they do any longer. But they are a really nice spear unit. Mordor Halberds. I think that's most of the Mordor army. Some more Mordor Halberds over here as well. So a nice mix of elites and cavalry and some chaff units as well, and a fair amount of range support, which, as you probably noticed, I have 0 of in my Angmar army. It is a full infantry rush beast machine, and yeah, so that range support is going to be really welcome. Moving on over here, we have the Orcs of the Misty Mountains being commanded by Thunderous Fox. Now, this is a unit that is not normally in the game for Misty Mountains. This is part of the Rebel faction, but they have it because this is a scenario, as I said. So the Mountain Uruk Archers, I think their stats got toned down so they don't have 10 missile damage anymore, which would be crazy. But their numbers didn't undergo the same treatment that the other Orcish archers went through. So yeah, something to note about this unit is that they're not precisely balanced, but they're not also extremely broken either any longer. In any case, Misty Mountain Heavy Goblin Halberds here mixed in with the Mountain Uruk Archers to keep them safe with their anti-cavalry bonus. Heavy Goblin Infantry, Sort of the sort of thing you've, I'm sure, come to expect from Misty Mountains at this point. A lot of heavy gobos. And then up here, this is where we get into some other units that aren't normally available to you. The Mountain Uruk Blades were originally envisioned as being a kind of a medium tier infantry unit, sort of a halfway house between the power of the Black Uruks and the numbers of the Heavy Goblin Infantry, but they have since been removed, and Misty Mountains is not necessarily any worse for the wear. They ended up being kind of a little bit of a redundant, superfluous unit. So you may see these come, you may see the second coming, I should say, of this unit in Dol Guldur once that faction is available. In any case, a couple units here of the Mountain Uruk Blades. Actually, a lot of Mountain Uruk Blades. Got some more Mountain Uruk Blades over here as well. Warg Riders, all that nasty stuff. And I think there's yet more. Yes, indeed. Got some Black Uruks of the Mountain, Heavy Goblin Spears, and some White Uruk Fearmongers. This is a very scary Misty Mountains army. I got some Goblin King Bodyguard in there as well. I don't see a lot of archers, however. So they might have some hidden archers in here somewhere, but generally, the attacking forces are quite low on their skirmishers, which is mostly for the purposes of balance. And did I say who was commanding the Misty Mountains army? I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, indeed, it is Titus Fox. Let's move on now to the second Misty Mountains army, this one being commanded by Dracy of the Dark Club. He's got some Heavy Goblin Halberds, a bunch of Heavy Goblin Halberds here forming his front line. He's also got some Drake Broodlings. Listen, do you hear that off in the distance? That is the cringing and groaning of 1,000 lore purists. Yes, indeed, we are all very aware that the Drake Broodlings are edging towards the side of crazy, but they're not completely out there. Of course, dragons had babies. That's, you know, they procreated. It was a thing. So it's kind of cool to see this novelty unit here in the Misty Mountains army. So some Drake Broodlings. One thing to note is that they are frost drakes essentially, so they are very weak to fire arrows. So something to keep in mind if you ever see these guys in the battlefield. Heavy Goblin Infantry. A couple units here of the Heavy Goblin Infantry. Got some Black Uruks of the Mountain as well. A raid on his wing. More Heavy Goblin Infantry. So much Heavy Goblin Infantry. All of the Heavy Goblin Infantry. Snow Trolls. Goblin King's Bodyguard. A couple units of Heavy Goblin Archers here. Maybe just one unit, which is going to be a very welcome addition indeed. But more significantly, Heavy Goblin Crossbows. If you can get this unit working for you, especially on a unit with terrain like this, where they have a lot of opportunities and can hide in trees and stuff like that, it's going to be a very valuable, cost-effective unit indeed when you are fighting a faction like the Elves. Let's move on now to the... This would be the fifth and final army, would it not? This is the Army of Mordor being commanded by Lango, and I don't think there's any such restrictions on this army as there is on the one that we saw previously. So I think that Lango is free to engage as he sees fit. He's got some Orc Javelins, Orc Fodder, Minas Morgul Bodyguard, more non-infantry, more halberds as well. A lot of Orc Fodder. This is, I think, the Fodder army. A lot of Orc Maulers in here as well, more Mordor heavy infantry. Not really any archers or things like that, so this is just another rush army that's is going to be pretty tough. It's going to be pretty tough on Lango to break through the elves in a meaningful way with the general quality of the troops here. He's also got some more non-guard, useful for pushing with their shield wall, and I think that just about does it for the blue team. So let's go ahead and see what the elves are going to be defending with today. The first tier of the elven forces defending their forest homeland is going to be the realm of Lothlorien, being commanded by Donald Kingslayer, and he's got a very elite and extremely entrenched force here. You can see a little bit of, should I call this tactical geometry? In any case, he has walled himself off here behind a very thick line of some deadly units, and let's take a look at them. A couple units of Karis Galathon Guardians, which you will never be able to afford in a 1v1. Well, I suppose maybe you could, but it would be an extremely high investment on your part. But very, very strong units indeed. Unit here of Galathron Nobles. Got some Lothlorien axes in behind them, and some Lothlorien spears and a shield wall in front of the Karis Galathon Guardians to add a little bit of mass to their formation, so that inevitably when the orcs try to barrel through with their trolls and their superior numbers, this formation will be able to hold. Behind them, I think he's got no less than 2 units of Sylvan Rangers, who are very, very scary units indeed. I'm sure if any of you are familiar with the functionality of Rangers, you're going to know that that is a scary thing, especially for the fodder army that we just looked at to have to face down. I also got some May 30 Lascallan and some Lothlorien Swordmasters, and I think we got some Axemen in here as well, some Lothlorien Warriors, some two-handed axes, and they're going to be blocking off this path here as Lango tries to advance up the ramp into the rear of the Lothlorien formation. Got another unit over here of Lothlorien Warriors, and I think that's almost it. No, we got some Lothlorien Archers, and then we got some Cavalry, Galathron Riders, and some Lothlorien Mounted Company as well. So a very deadly force indeed, but the Cavalry is really going to need to be used to great effectiveness if they're going to pull their weight on this battlefield. They have to thin out some of the Orcish numbers, and really the job of Lothlorien is just to try and whittle down numbers and make things as miserable for the attacking armies as possible, so that the second tier, which we'll look at in just a moment, I just want to draw attention to this placement of the stakes here. I've never seen this before, and it looks really cool. That's just like a miserable thing. Like no cavalry will be able to come through. That doesn't matter what direction. Front, back, this is just a minefield for them. I think that's kind of funny. But in any case, let's move on now to the second tier of the Elven defenses. This is going to be headed by Lyndon, who is being commanded by Sin of the Dark Cloud, one of the lead developers, and actually the one who developed this faction on his own. So that's kind of cool. Mythlon Lancers here, 2 units of Mythlon Lancers, and I think that's it for his cavalry. I could be wrong though. No, indeed he has the unit of Eldoran Horse Lords, who are a sexy but very deadly knight unit. A little bit more lightly armored than some of their other counterparts, but yeah, definitely still deadly, although they lack a shield value, so they are vulnerable to being shot to bits. Out in front here, got some Eldoran Guard, Mythlon Pikemen, all of the heavy hitters here being combined together into one nasty wall of pikes and steel. In the back, we got some Mythlon Marines, a couple units of Mythlon Marines who are also very strong medium infantry after they use their javelins. Harlan on guard on the flanks. Got a catapult as well hiding in there. Unit of Wardens of Elastirion, 2 of them in fact. One here, one on the other spur of this mountain pass. And oh yeah, one other thing, the cavalry that we do have is only allowed to engage the Elven cavalry. I forgot to mention that a little bit earlier on. It's my bad, guys. It's been a while since this scenario, probably about a week or so. But yeah, so our cavalry is only allowed to attack the Elven cavalry. So that's the only thing that we can do with them. But the Elven cavalry is free to do as they please. Yeah, over here, I think it's just 1 unit of catapult. Got a ton of swordsmen and more Eldoran Guard, Mythlon swordsmen mixed in amongst them. Altogether, a very elite, very, very strong force, and I think he's got some hidden archers up here as well, in the form of maybe some Harlan on guard or some Furlan archers. They might just be hiding in the underbrush. Let's move on now to the third and final layer of Elven defense. We have the redoubtable High Elves of Imlandris. This army being commanded by Inksvitz. He's got, I believe, 2 units of the Imlandris sentries, possibly even more. A lot of the Eldorin we had Masil, who Heru Makil, I suppose it is, because C is a hard K in all Elven languages that I am aware of. But yeah, two companies, I believe, at least 2 companies of the Eldorin we had Makil. Eldorin we had Hatal. I think there's like 2 units of them, and then there's a couple units, maybe 2 or 3 units of the Imlandris Blade Masters as well. Imlandris Guardians, fully upgraded. And then we get into some of the nastier stuff. So 2 units of Gwythi Myrdain, 2 units of Gwythi Arthand. And these guys actually have an armor upgrade. I'm going to show it off to you right now. Those cool helmets and the extra little mail and stuff that they tack on there look really cool, very deadly and professional. And then finally we have the Gothelim Ainiaur, who are they're like a hybrid bow heavy infantry unit, and they've also got their full upgrades here. So this is what they look like when they are fully upgraded. And I think that's it, although they might have some cavalry. Indeed they do. Got some Eldorin we had Mairo, and more Eldorin we had Hatal, and then of course we have a couple units of Eldorin we had Quinga. So this is a very hardened force composed majoritarily of Noldor veterans, which is not something that you normally see, and is going to be, of course, a nightmare to try and break through, especially at this late point in the game when we've already taken a ton of casualties. But that does it for the army comps. Let's go ahead and jump into the replay. The gates have opened, the battle has begun for Thranduil's realm. My Orcs of Good and Bad force is going to be among the first to move forward, but Lango is going to be the one to make first contact with the enemy. He has the dubious honor of being the first into the breach against the Elves of Lothlorien, the first tier of the Elven defense. That's not going to be fun. As you recall, he has a mostly fodder army, and Donald Kingslayer is well prepared. You can see a couple units here, Lothlorien warriors and Lothlorien swordmasters, forming up, getting ready to meet the hordes of Sauron. Looks like a 3rd company of the Lothlorien swordmasters being committed there, so a ton of shock troops, which is interesting. Normally you want to get your shock troops, or you want to maneuver them thus that they get an opportunity to get their charge bonus off. But I suppose if you're in a bit of a bind here and you don't have any sword and board infantry, then that's going to work out just fine. A lot of these fodder units aren't going to be able to break through those highly skilled and highly damaging units of elves. Let's take a look at what we have out here. It looks like a unit of Sindar archers. This is actually Donald Kingslayer's general. He's going to be maneuvering. I'm not too sure what he's doing. Actually, he might be heading towards the Lindon defense, which is a little bit farther back here in the woods. So he's going to be supporting the Elves of Lindon with his bodyguard and leaving the rest of his force to do their best. Got a unit here of the Lothlorien Mounted Company, and I think there's also a unit of Galathrim Riders who are out patrolling the forest. We're looking at a little bit of early harass as Tundra's Fox begins to move forward with his Orcs of the Misty Mountains. His hordes of Goblin Warriors getting themselves in a position to assault this hilltop fortress, but let's see what this cavalry unit is up to. Early damage here by Donald Kingslayer into the Mordor army. Poor Lango doesn't really have an answer to them. Rushing some of his Orc fodder and some of his spearmen in there. Donald Kingslayer's very limber, very nimble Lothlorien Mounted Company are going to be able to retreat from that fight, but they're actually going to get caught here on some of the Orc fodder spears. Now, normally these guys would probably beat the Orc fodder spears just because they are not great, but with the arrow fire and with the supporting units, it's going to be important to try and get these guys out of there to preserve their numbers, but it seems like Donald Kingslayer has a lot on his plate right now. He might be microing his other unit of cavalry, but unfortunately, Lothlorien Mounted Company are going to pay the price for that. They're going to try and move their way through the Orc fodder. Oh, it's painful to watch as the Snow Trolls move in. Naturally, there are also some stakes in here, so they're a little bit hampered in what they can accomplish. What do we got over here? Minas Morgul bodyguard. Oh my God, they're going for the Mordor general. I mean, there are stakes there. This is a bit of a it was a risk, but it's a risk that pays off. And now, the fodder army of Lango is going to find themselves leaderless. Lothlorien Mounted Company here being surrounded on all sides. Oh, it was a suicide mission behind enemy lines. The general, sniping the general is a really big deal, especially for the Orcish factions. But, I don't know, I feel like this unit here could have got a lot more done. They might not have got a general kill, but they probably could have made the Orcish hordes pay a little bit more dearly as they advance towards Lothlorien's line of defense. However, he got a general, so there's no gainsaying that. Minas Morgul bodyguard here, along with the Snow Trolls, cleaning up what remains of the Lothlorien Mounted Company. That's going to be all she wrote for them. Good night, sweet prince. Moving on over to this side, the first wave of Lango's army, ineffective as you would expect, but there are some Orc Javelins nearby. You're going to be putting some fire into this blob of Lothlorien elite units, and that's actually really effective. I mean, some of them are going to die. The Orc Javelins don't exactly have the greatest damage, but over time, this is going to take a toll. This is exactly what Lango needs right now. Having lost his general and really only having a few units of quality in his army, he's going to be in a bit of a bind otherwise. But he's really making the Lothlorien army pay for it right now, and it looks like the Lothlorien troops might actually move forward here. They're going to break ranks and charge down towards the Orc Javelins, and it seems like Lango is out of ammunition in any case, so it's not going to matter too much for him if these units get caught up. And he's actually going to commit them forward here. The Orc Javelins being thrown under the bus to blunt this charge from the Lothlorien warriors and Swordmasters as they move down. Lango moving in for a deadly surround. Orc Maulers here, backed up with some Snow Trolls. Ooh, this is some beautiful chaos here. Some of those Orc units are trying to move through the gap here and move up against the Lothlorien. This would be their archers that have been pulled back behind their lines because of the advance of the Goblins. Now what do we got over here? Eldarin Wehedu Maedro from Inksfits being used to great effect here against the Goblin units. My forces moving up, but they're going to suffer a charge from these Eldarin units. Although they are going to move away at the last moment, and they are going to blunt it a little bit, so that's not as devastating as it could have been. They could have just bowled us over like so many bowling pins. Now the Eldarin Wehedu Maedro are stuck on my Guardians of Karn Doom, who will do okay. Meanwhile, the rest of the Goblin units are moving in to try and surround them. Inksfet's not going to let it happen, though. Going to get out of there with his Eldarin Wehedu Maedro and save them for a rainy day. Well, looks like, oh no, they're going to mount another charge here against the heavy Goblin units. There's some halberds in there as well, so this is probably not the best advised charge. They are going to take down a fair number of those heavy Goblin infantry, however, but ultimately they will be forced to retreat. Haven't really done a lot of damage to them, though. They've got about 50 or so men in the unit who've maybe managed to kill about 8 of them. But yeah, so far the cavalry has not been terribly effective for the elves, which is unfortunate. That's something I imagine that they were really, really counting on, and would be extremely important for thinning out our numbers, because we have so much more troops than they do. Blackwatch Legion here from myself, trying to push their way through the Caris Galathon Guardian, doing what they do best. But the Caris Galathon Guardians are no slouch. Goblin's going to follow that up with a little bit of support here. Got my Guardians of Cardoon moving in as well, just trying to push our way through this one little pressure point here being created by the Blackwatch Legion. But this is bad news bears. A couple of units of Sylvan Rangers up here, firing into our troops as they advance. Oh man, that's painful. That's really unfortunate for us. Luckily, all these troops are shielded and reasonably well armored, but still, mass Ranger volley fire like that, it's gonna take a toll. So you can see our units just beginning to fall like so many dry leaves in fall. In autumn, I should say. Still, dead even percentage so far. Let's see what else is going on. I know that the Glathram Riders, yeah, they ended up picking a fight with my army, and I think they came off looking the worse for it. I brought up some of my trolls, and I think I was chasing them around. And ultimately, I managed to catch them with some pikemen, strangely enough, because I think Donald lost a little bit of micro on them, so that is the fate of the Glathram Riders. And they managed to get some decent shots here, I think, against some of the archers and some of the advancing goblin troops. But ultimately, the cavalry has not been effective, terribly effective, I should say, for the defending players, which is going to be a big problem. You can see over here, just to keep the Elder Enemy Hedumidro out, Tundros Fox is actually going to move forward with some of his Warg Riders, but I'm going to move in as well alongside my ally Tundros Fox. And we're going to set up a bit of a checkpoint here. Ain't no cavalry coming through this in a hurry. Let's see what we got over here. Donald Kingslayer's beleaguered forces. I'm trying to smash them down with commitments of my trolls and my Blackwatch Legion, but the Lothlorien forces are just holding firm. Two companies there, or maybe this is just one company but backed up with a lot of heavy infantry, of the Karis Galathon Guardians are proving their worth today. Really giving my Orcish forces the business along with my ally Tundros Fox. We are just not able to push through this mass of elven units. We have more and more reinforcements moving their way in. Some heavy goblin infantry, some mountain rogue archers who I think might be out of ammunition or they're just heavily reduced. But I've still got a lot of reserves as well. And we're going to slowly but surely begin to move them up the spur here and try and put some more pressure on the Lothlorien lines. Galathram Nobles here, forming up alongside the Karis Galathon Guardians, but they are actually going to overextend a little bit and leave themselves vulnerable to being outflanked. So Donald Kingslayer recognizes this danger and he's going to pull them back behind his lines. And over here, the Karis Galathon Guardians, along with some Lothlorien heavy spearmen, are going to be they're going to be forming their battle line and getting ready to receive a charge here from Tundros Fox. A lot of his forces are actually quite tired, having I think moved a very long way around here in order to put some pressure on this part of the Elven lineup. What do we got here? So my 30 Last Gallon, who have already tossed their javelins. Fortunately, we missed that. Over here, you can see some reinforcements being moved in to this choke point. It looks like maybe the Lothlorien troops pulled back from the spur there and move themselves back up here to this choke point, which is a lot more defensible. Good plan on their part. And Lango is doing his best to worm his way through, but it is slow going. It is very slow going. A lot of these elite Lothlorien troops are not going to go down without a fight, and it's going to cost Lango quite dearly. His biggest hope, I think, is for us to be able to break through here and then come in from behind against Donald's forces, surround them, and that's going to be the end of them. But we have a long way to go before we're able to do that. What do we got here? Tundros Fox. Looks like he wants to try and flank his Lothlorien units, which is a good idea. Lango has actually moved in as well, surprisingly. I guess he moved some of his forces around and brought him up a separate ramp. There's some more non-halberds in here from Lango as well, alongside Tundros Fox's units. And it's just a nightmare. Look at this. Moving in with some of my Angmar halberds, and second company there, my Angmar halberds, and we're just trying to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. But the Lothlorien forces are standing strong. But just look at this. This is the sheer scale of this battle. This is why I love scenarios. You can really get some cool stuff with scenarios that you just can't in custom battles because of how we balanced it. With a budget of 13K, you can't afford to have everybody have a 20-stack army of like a bunch of elites and stuff. So scenarios really, they're not necessarily the most balanced, but damn if they're not cool. Look at this. An advance here from some Angmar halberds alongside some more non-halberds. And they're going to be held at bay by the Karis Galathon Guardians, but some of the orcs are going to slowly make it through with their numbers. And the Karis Galathon Guardians, brave and deadly though they may be, are definitely in danger of being overwhelmed. What do we got over here? Some scouts firing into the rear of Donald Kingslayer's forces. The Sylvan Rangers especially are going to be very much in danger of being cut down very quickly by that arrow fire. The heavier Lothlorien units with their 8 armor are going to be able to stand up to it a little bit better. The scouts, I believe, only have about 4 missile damage, so it's not incredibly deadly for them. Oh, what do you know? We got some Sindar Blade Masters in here as well. Some hidden units of Sindar Blade Masters joining the fight. Some of the Snow Trolls managed to push their way through. Now they're coming in from the rear against the Elven position. Desperately, Mordor and Lango's forces are trying to worm their way through, but without their general, look at this. Look at the routing that can happen. 110 Orc Maulers fleeing from that fight. That's not going to do anything for the morale of the remaining forces. More evil forces here. Looks like a spear wall push from the Moradon Guard, trying to worm their way in here, and it is actually looking like it's going to be pretty effective. Oh man, the Lothlorien forces here are really in danger of being overwhelmed. That mass push is can be especially effective against the elves, who are a little bit more susceptible to it than other factions with their lower mass values. They got about 0.7, whereas the average human and dwarf will have about 1. It does make a big difference. It doesn't sound like a huge amount, but yeah, small value increments like that really do seem to matter in Medieval 2. Anyway, elsewhere, the Lothlorien front line is standing strong. They've killed, I think, 2 units of my trolls, untold numbers of my infantry. My Blackwatch Legion are all but destroyed. And so far, my allies and I have not been able to really put any serious pressure on their front lines. Those 2 units of Karis Galathon Guardians are so nasty from the front. And you can see our numbers. We've only looked away for maybe about a minute or 2, but our numbers have really begun to thin out. And our reserves are, in equal measure, beginning to disappear. So we got over here. We're actually going to pull some of our troops out. I got some Goblin Band here from myself and some Heavy Goblin Helmers to try and keep the Elder Herumairo at bay. And it looks like that has been successful so far. What do we got over here? It looks like we missed a bit of a cavalry fight. Some of the wargs picking a fight with the, I think it's the Lindon cavalry. Could be wrong, though. It's hard to tell. Everyone is so muddy and bloody. But yeah, some of the wargs were out here trying to fight with some of the Lindon cavalry. But I don't know where the Elder Herumairo are hiding out right now. What do we got? Looks like the Orcs of the Misty Mountain Army from Dreezy has moved in to prevent any of the Elven forces from coming to the aid of their allies, and we've locked down this other area over here with another unit of Halberds. So we've got Lothlorien exactly where we want them. There is no hope for aid from the other Elven factions. It's just going to be a matter of trying to grind them down. But damn if that's not hard. Over here, it seems like maybe we've begun to take our toll. The Karis Galathon Guardians, I think, have taken a fair amount of damage, 56. They start with about 80-something, or like 90 or so men in the unit, so they are still in very good condition. What we got back here? Some Snow Trolls. Bopping around some of the Lothlorien axes. Galathrim nobles have now been committed, and it looks like the Mordor push against Lothlorien has been really effective, and they've managed to kill a significant number of them, but they've managed to make a hole here, which they could use to come in from behind the Lothlorien front line. And it looks like we're going to need it. Honestly, when I was playing through this, I thought that it was going to be down to us to beat the Lothlorien front line and come to the aid of Lango, but actually with a little bit of help from Tundra's Fox, he's managed to do very well for himself, and it seems like he's going to be coming to our aid instead, and that's going to be invaluable. Not only is that going to draw off some reserves here, but once they manage to carve their way through, they will be able to surround the Karis Galathon's Guardians, which is really, at this point, our only hope of dealing with them if we don't want to lose 80% of our army on the first layer of defense alone. What do we got here? Some Lothlorien axes actually being routed. I am shocked by this. That is not an easy thing to do. I don't know how that happened, but they are going to rout. They're going to rout straight into the waiting arms of some of my elites. Got my Witch-Realm Blackguard here. That's my general's bodyguards. And they're going to help push against the remaining Lothlorien forces, and that's actually going to be pretty decisive. My Witch-Realm Blackguard seemed to be just the thing that was needed to push through this one little point of the Lothlorien defense, so it's actually going to start to crumble now pretty quickly, just under the sheer weight of the numbers of the Orcish forces. But again, this is just the first wave. Let's see how they've done. It's been fairly even so far, but bear in mind that we have 2 more armies than they do, so Lothlorien has taken a disproportionate toll on our attacking forces thus far. More arrow fire coming in from, I think that would be Lango. Lango has really been instrumental in this fight against Lothlorien. He's fighting a 2-front war, and his aid has been basically invaluable without his strong tactics. I don't think we would have made it quite as far and in the reasonably good condition that our armies are in right now. I like this very peaceful fountain, just, you know, spraying water everywhere, doing its own thing. Meanwhile, chaos rages around it. It's an interesting little juxtaposition. Got some chanting going on in there. Not too sure who that's from. Looks like it's from Lango's Sauron's will, trying to keep the rest of his army in the fight for as long as possible. I think that's that Tundra's Fox is in here as well. Yeah, he's got some Mountaineer blades. And the Lothlorien forces, honestly, they're pulling it back. The balanced forces is now evenly matched. They've managed to form a line that the Mordor forces aren't capable of pushing through any longer. I think mostly because a lot of their higher mass units, like the halberds and some of the spears and such, are elsewhere, pushing their way through the Lothlorien Galathrim nobles and the Sylvan Rangers. Let's take a look at the front line here. Somehow, we've managed to break through, and we're going to be able to surround the Lothlorien forces in the center. Thank goodness for that. Thank Melkor, I suppose. Because those Kareth Galathon Guardians were really doing a number on us. Battle rages on, however, the Lothlorien forces unwilling to give up or attempt to break out and flee. And over here it says that victory is still a certainty for a lot of these units. What is? You see that that troll just kind of twitching and throwing Lothlorien forces into the air left and right. That was pretty awesome. Kareth Galathon Guardian still over here, probably going to poke that poor troll to death. Let's see what we got here. Some heavy goblin spears from Tundra's Fox coming in from the rear. And now the Lothlorien forces, what remains of them, are completely surrounded. So this is the last stand. Meanwhile, the rest of the army is moving on, preparing themselves to assault the second lair. It's going to take some time. But the Kareth Galathon Guardians and the remaining Maether Elasgalan, and I think there's maybe some Axemen in there as well. A couple units, a couple individuals, I should say, of Axemen. What we got over here, Lothlorien spears in danger of routing, despite their high morale, and despite their chevrons. Really gives you a sense of how desperate the struggle has become for the Elves of Lothlorien. Hopeless, beleaguered without hope, surrounded on all sides, the Elves of Lothlorien are going to have nowhere to run, and that's going to be the end of them. Elsewhere, like I said, the army moving on, getting themselves ready for the next big fight. Very bloodied, though, and quite heavily reduced. At this point, my army, I didn't really have a ton left over. And I know Tundra's Fox and Lango had suffered quite grievously. If you look at the bodies on the ground, predominantly Orcish. So much damage was done to our armies just trying to push through here. So Donald Kingslayer really did put up a heroic defense. Speaking of heroic defenses, Lothlorien warriors here beleaguered beyond hope. Still putting up a fight, though. Still hacking their way through some of the orcs. Looks like the Minas Morgul bodyguard is in there as well, but they've taken about a third of their number in casualties. These Lothlorien units not giving up. Even in the... Look at this. This is some heroic, like, Last Samurai sort of stuff right here. That's a pretty awesome last stand of just a small pocket of Lothlorien warriors. Bloodied, dirty from the extended fighting. Nonetheless, hopes are high. Willing to give their all for the defense of Middle-earth and of their beloved woodlands. Let's pop back on over here. Kareth Galathon Guardians, fittingly the last men standing. Last elves. Being hacked to bits by the vengeful orc warriors, no doubt infuriated by the heavy, heavy losses that Lothlorien inflicted on them. Let's see what's going on here. Now it's going to be down to Sin of the Darkcloud and his entrenched Linden forces. They are ready. They are dirty because of the strangeness of our weather effects currently, but they are ready to do their part. The Elves of Lothlorien have fallen. Now it's going to be down to the realm of Lindon up next. Looks like they're taking some pot shots at I do not know what. Some orc fodder, possibly not the best use of their ammunition. But yeah, I don't really know what that's all about. The orc fodder, of course, they could just be thrown in at some of the archers and things like that to push them out of position. Maybe that's why they're trying to thin them out. I personally wouldn't have been quite so concerned about them, but hey. Hindsight is 20/20. Far be it from me to gainsay the decisions of the players in the moment. A lot of work fodder here from Lango. Lango seemingly infinite in his numbers. I don't know where he's getting all of these units from. Charge here from the Mython Lancers into the orc fodder. Normally you don't want to charge into spears, but they have lower morale and they were already shaken, so I think maybe Sin of the Dark Cloud was hoping for a devastating charge that would allow him to scatter them, which is not a bad idea. Honestly, these guys don't handle morale shocks very well, so that kind of tactic, shock and awe sort of thing, is actually quite useful. Over here, Mython Lancers charging down the Mountain Uruk archers from Tundra's Fox. Sin of the Dark Cloud going for the soft underbelly of the remaining Orcish armies as they move forward, trying to pick them apart while they're out of position. Another charge here from the Mython Lancers. Devastating charge there into Tundra Fox's infantry. And we're kind of scattered at the moment. I've got some of my Angmar forces up here trying to ward off some of the cavalry, my Goblin band moving in there, kind of force the Mython Lancers to pull themselves out of there. Meanwhile, I've got some Orc Fellers and some Good and Bad Guard and some other nasty things moving forward. And you can just see the sheer number of the Orcish army still remaining. Just look at this, just swarming out of every conceivable place in the hills. Took a lot of damage, but we are legion as the Orcs. And Drizzy, of course, still has a full force, and I believe that the second Mordor army is going to be able to join the battle as well. So we're going to see them, I think, coming down from the hills over here. Yes, indeed, Arcturus is now free to join the battle now that the first Elven defense has fallen. So this is going to be a tough fight for Sin of the Dark Cloud. A lot of armies here are going to be swarming against him. Got some Melkor's Chosen. It looks like they might be trying to go around. I think we agreed not to do that, though, just in the interest of having the defense be a little bit more interesting. We're not going to try and go around the back of Sin of the Dark Cloud's army with cavalry. Instead, we're going to take it head on, like the brave? I guess you could say that we're brave, like the brave orcs that we are. Langa Spearman here getting entangled with the Harlandon Guard. Yeah, I mean, it works. It's going to hold these guys in position. They're not going to be able to kill them quickly enough before the rest of the Orcish lines clash with that of Linden's. So, yeah, the distraction is actually worth it. What do you know? Harlandon Guard here from Sin of the Dark Cloud looking like they might try to disengage, or they're just going to try and hold their ground and fire into the Goblin infantry. Just trying to thin out the sheer numbers of the Goblin forces. Another good target for them would, of course, be my Orc Fellers, who don't have a ton of armor and, of course, have no shield values. So pew-pewing these guys, a viable tactic indeed. Let's see what we got here. Drizzy of the Dark Cloud forming up with a lot of his Goblin infantry here on the front line. Some fodder units just going to be thrown in there to be a distraction and to wear down the morale of the more elite Lindon forces. Sin of the Dark Cloud, it's a really nasty army here. The best of the Mythlon Pikemen being backed up by the Noldoran Guard. It's going to be a tough nut to crack. Mountain Uruk Archers routing. Oh, look at this poor bastard. My Orc Fellers charging their way in, but they are just going to get massacred here by the Linden forces, but we just want to wear them down. We want to wear down their fatigue, especially. That's one of the things that the elves have over the orcs in spades in a pretty significant way. Is their fatigue. They can fight for longer and fight harder than just about any Orcish unit around. Oh, poor Drizzy's Goblin infantry getting pew-pewed down by the elite Elven archers. And look at this, a very well-placed unit here of Wardens of Elostirian, firing down into the flank of our Orcish units as they move forward to engage the Lindon front line. That is a massacre. No wonder my Orc Fellers are getting killed like 5 a second. What we got here? Oh, my other unit of Orc Fellers being targeted specifically by those Rangers. Very nasty indeed. My Witch Realm Blackguard along with my Witch Realm Hammer Guard are being brought to bear here against the Noldoran Guard. We're going to try and do what we did the last time. And then we're going to break a portion of the line, or try and damage it as much as we can, and try and just roll up the line with our sheer numbers. Ooh, some Mython Marines. It looks like they were hiding in the back, and they're firing into my elite units. My Witch Realm Blackguard just getting massacred, and my Hammer Guard getting hammered in turn. But really, this is a very nasty defense for us to have to push our way through. Angmar Marauders here, 195 of them. Even nearby with our general. That's going to be nasty. Sin of the Dark Cloud's artillery opening up on our forces as they move forward. The heavy Goblin units here. Ooh, almost getting routed. Trudging over the smoldering corpses of their allies. It's no wonder that they're thinking about fleeing. What do we got here? Arcturus, though, is going to be our savior in this battle. He's got a fresh army from Mordor that is actually quite strong. And he's coming in like a wrecking ball. Look at this. Actually, I think a lot of these are my forces. Never mind. Arcturus is going to be backing them up. But I've got some good and bad guard here. I'm going to try and use them to spear wall push against the Noldoran guard, against the Mithlon pikemen, and try and get into the Elven catapult. Really want to silence that. It's really doing a lot of damage to us, especially in the center. Look at this. Look at that beautiful firing arc that it has. A little bit of lag there as all those forces clash on the front lines. Come on, one more catapult shot. I want it. I think they might be going for this portion of the line down here, so let's get ready. Oh yeah, any moment you should see those fireballs ripping through the tree line. Come on. Show me what you got. Oh, it doesn't look like we're going to be treated to it. Yeah, no, they changed targets, so they're not going to fire for a little while. Mithlon holding the line. What do we got here? Some Black Legion of Barad-dûr pushing through the undefended Mithlon pikes, but they are actually being backed up with some Mithlon Marines, so good move there on the part of Sin of the Dark Cloud. Being one of the lead developers, he knows how to hold a line. But the low mass of the Lindon Elves is going to play against them. You can see Sin of the Dark Cloud maneuvering some reinforcements in preparation for greeting the Black Legion of Barad-dûr as they try and muscle their way through his front line. Mithlon Swordmasters now moving into one of the weakest points in the line. Going to try and defend the catapults. Now those Black Legion of Barad-dûr are going to be in for a pretty nasty surprise. Still, quite healthy though, 152, 150. They are losing men by the moment. Come on, catapults. Do it, catapults. It looks like the Mordor forces have managed to reach the catapult and they are going to be able to silence it. And that's going to be a big problem. With that catapult constantly firing at us, we would have been in a much worse position. But now that Arcturus has managed to muscle his way through Sin of the Dark Cloud's forces and silence that catapult, things are going to turn around here for Linden. Sin of the Dark Cloud maneuvering some more reinforcements onto the line, some Noldoran guard here, along with the Mithlon Swordmasters. Our forces are not getting through in the center, not in the slightest. However, up here in Sin of the Dark Cloud's right, or rather left wing, pardon me, it's a different story. Orc fodder here engaging the Wardens of Elostirion, silencing them. And this is a big gap in Sin of the Dark Cloud's defenses, so some reinforcements need to be moved onto his left wing, otherwise he does risk having his line rolled up. My forces ended up being ineffective at breaking through the Mithlon pikemen. However, they're going to be able to hold them in place long enough for the possibility of a flanking movement here to begin to roll up Sin of the Dark Cloud's line. You can see, look at this. Reinforcements just being poured into this breach. So many orcs still around. Halberds, of course, moving forward as well. Along with my Blackguard, they're going to try and muscle their way through here. If we can break the line in several places, Sin of the Dark Cloud's in a lot of trouble. Let's just get a nice little shot here. Look at this battle under the boughs of the trees here. The Mariners of Lindon holding the line as best they can. More reinforcements have moved in. Looks like Sin of the Dark Cloud is trying to retrieve his catapult, but I think that the forces of Mordor have their claws dug in a little bit too deep. I don't think that catapult is going to be able to flee from the fight. Still, everywhere but his left, Sin of the Dark Cloud is holding his ground quite admirably. Nice little sweeping shot of the line there. But this is the big problem. This is where a lot of the pressure is going to come from, and I think this is going to be where the Lindon forces start to fall apart. It's on their left, just not enough reserves to go around to defend every point on the line with so many Orcish forces arrayed against them. But just look at the damage that they've done so far, especially initially, with all those Rangers and Bowmen and Javelins firing freely. So, just hundreds upon hundreds of orcs dead on the ground. Noldoran guard backed up by those Mithlon Swordmasters, whacking their way through the Orcish lines. It looks like some more reinforcements coming out of nowhere, pushing their way here against the battered and dirty forces of Sauron. But still, it says that victory is nearly a certainty for the Orcish forces, mostly due to the sheer weight of numbers. Oh, look at this! You can see the hammer coming crashing down on this very precarious left wing of Sin of the Dark Cloud. Noldoran Blade Masters have been committed as well. They are nasty and fear-causing. I believe they also inspire, so they're going to keep this portion of the line held down for quite some time. But it's only a matter of time before some nasty stuff starts to happen. Looks like Thunderous Fox has moved up with his Rook Archers, and now this is the worst kind of situation that Lindon could be in. And their predominantly lightly armored forces are going to be no match for that kind of enfilading fire. And they're already struggling on the line, starting to lose their numbers. This is going to be the end. I just love the look of that, though. It just really... I feel like you don't get this kind of scale of combat in more modern Total War titles, which is why people come back to Medieval 2 all the time, because you want that big spectacle, and you can't always get that in games like Attila, especially Attila, because Attila doesn't run terribly well on the majority of computers, and in Warhammer as well. I feel like you don't get the same kind of scale and weightiness in the combat. People just kind of get ragdollized all the time. You don't get the same kind of line battles. Well, maybe I'm just biased. Maybe I just really like Medieval 2. But yeah, I feel like that's probably why people love Medieval 2 so much, and will come back and play that over more modern options. But in any case, back to the battle. Looks like Sin of the Dark Cloud's General Kier down the shipwright, the oldest elf in Middle-earth, has fallen to the forces of Sauron. And that is going to put the fear of Eru into a lot of these Lindon units, having lost their general and already losing a lot of the fight. You can see some breaking here. Mithlon Marines heavily reduced, however. Mithlon Swordmasters in the center. They might not be able to hold for too much longer under the pressure that the Orcish forces are putting down on them. Thunderous Fox's Mount Newark Bowmen still raining down death from the heights, using their fire arrows now to try and break this blob of Mithlon troops. Noldoran Guard nearby, however. They are an Inspire unit, and they will keep these forces in the fight for longer than they otherwise would be. Noldoran Blade Masters nearby as well. That's the only thing that's keeping these Mithlon Sword Masters from just fleeing. You can see them kind of vacillating between wavering and shaken. Very unsure. So the center here beginning to crack under the weight of the Orcish forces. But let's take a look. 59 to 50. They have a 10% advantage despite being outnumbered by 2 armies. That is pretty impressive. Both sides have actually played really well, really tactical, and really smart, which is what I like to see. A lot of the players in here are veterans. They are people who have been playing for like 3 or 4 or more patches. So it's good to have these kinds of games. What do we got here? We got a little bit of breaking. Mithlon Swordmasters fleeing from the fight. They may reform. It is possible. Although with the loss of their general, they might not. But we could see them reform and then reform behind the High Elven lines, who are the final line of defense. More Mithlon Swordmasters breaking here. A lot of breakage from the Elves of Lindon. Even the Noldoran Guard are thinking about it, that's when you know that things have gone pear-shaped. Is when the Noldoran Guard are like, nah, I'm out. Speaking of, look at this. The stand here around the catapult is just legendary. Wardens of Elos Tyrion, a couple units here of the Noldoran Guard. There's still some Mithlon Pikemen. And it looks like another company of the Wardens of Elos Tyrion. Maybe that's just one that's stretched out. Yeah, it is. Another company of Mithlon Pikemen. So yeah, this is where their last stand is going to be. But in the center, they have been shattered like a rotten stick. Looks like there's still some Noldoran Blade Masters in the fight. 25 of them. Very impressive. Really a testament to how elite these units can be. Or rather, I should say are. But, yeah, ultimately, the sheer numbers here. Again, with the influx of Arcturus' reinforcements, Sin of the Dark Cloud was always going to have a hard time. Well, let's see here. Let's just look at the damage that's been done to the Orcish forces. A lot of dead orcs, mixed in with a fair amount of dead elves. But one of the important things to note is that a lot of our pushing units have been pretty well destroyed by Sin of the Dark Cloud. The Black Legion of Barad-dûr, I think, are pretty well gone. I know my Black Watch Legion were destroyed quite a while back fighting the Lothlorien forces. My elites are down to next to nothing. Most of my army is destroyed, so we've lost a lot of our important units trying to push our way through. What we have left is some fodder and some elites, but a lot of our trolls, I think, are gone. A lot of our pushing units, and I think our wargs have been completely destroyed by this point as well. Look at that, the Wardens of Elos Tyrion. unafraid in the face of complete and certain death. That was a really cool last stand up here. I think the Noldoran units, the Noldoran Guard might have routed off, or they might have just been enveloped by the sea of Orcish forces. But there you have it. The second line of defense has fallen. Let's see them move forward here. Slowly trickling out of the hills. But given the numbers that we had coming out of the first line of defense, you can really see that the damage has been done here. 65 to 52. Ultimately, the destruction of Sin of the Dark Cloud has really cost us quite dearly. And now they are 13% ahead, which is not an insignificant amount. Well, let's take a look over here. Let's see. I think the Sindar bodyguard were over here as well. I don't know what happened to them, though. I'm pretty sure that they were fighting in here at some point, but I'm almost certain that they escape and become a problem later. But let's take a look at the High Elven defense now, being commanded by Engsfits. This is nasty. There's some really strong Noldoran units in here. In fact, I'd say about half their force is composed of Noldor. Yeah, some nasty units in here mixed in with the Noldor. Imladra Sentry, some Imladra Storm Guard fully upgraded. Some 2 units of Elder and we had Uquinga. And they're going to be pew-pewing the remaining Orcish forces as they move forward, trying to target the blobs and thin out their numbers. And I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work quite nicely. What do we got up here? A unit of Gwaithiarthand. I know there's a second unit of Gwaithiarthand here as well. Got a final kind of last stand. There they are! Yes! I found them. That's why I was kind of hovering almost aimlessly around the battlefield. Yeah, I was looking for the Sindar archers. So Donald Kingslayer still in the fight. I wonder if Sin of the Dark Cloud managed to retreat into his forces. I don't think so. What do you got here? It looks like my army, my battered host from Angmar, going to be the first into the fray against the High Elves. Actually, I remember this. What ended up happening is I had to leave. So I was like, yeah, YOLO. Throw all my forces in at once into one big choke point and try and at least be sort of useful for my teammates. So after this choke point, what if there's anything remaining of my forces? They're not really gonna move. So if you guys are wondering why, yeah, that's the reason I had to leave. But I didn't want to like quit the game and like maybe cause things to crash or something. So I just left it on and just threw my remaining troops into the battle against Imladras. Imladras Guardians here, some Eldarin Wehedu Hatal mixed in with the Eldarin We Sentries. Not a bad thing to have. Extra mass from the Spearmen, given that they can form shield wall. It's going to be useful in stopping mass pushes, which is something that the Orcish forces up until this point have used quite well. Well, those Imladras Guardians just really giving it to my Angmar forces. They've lost like 4 men so far, and I think we're down another couple percentage points. So that is a nasty thing indeed. Now you can see some of the, the Orcish forces just kind of moving around here, and that's because there's a couple good reasons for that. There is actually multiple ways through here. Now there's a hidden unit of Eldarin Wehedu Hatal. Looks like Engsfits was not unaware of these passes into his defense, into the heart of his defense, and he's more than ready for it. He's got some nearby Eldarin Wehedu Masil as well. I think he's got 2 units, maybe. Looks like there's a lot of them. Eldarin Wehedu Quinga firing their way into these Orcish blobs as they move forward. Looks like he might be going after... Oh yeah, he's going to go after the Goblin Archers. Heavy Goblin Archers and some of the remaining Heavy Uruk Archers, or Mountain Uruk Archers. Not a bad thing. Really, I find that outnumbered defenses like this live or die by their ability to deal with enemy skirmish forces. If the enemy has too many skirmish forces, or if they have too much artillery, then it's extremely hard for defenders to hold their ground. It just ends up being too much of an advantage. But yeah, they're trying to even out that skirmish fight there quite wisely, in my opinion. We have a surprising amount of bowmen. It looks like Arcturus had a lot of bowmen left over, and Turnus Fox has managed to hold on to a couple of his, and Drizzy of the Dark Cloud, of course, has some bowmen as well. But we don't have a ton, and they're probably low on ammo at this point. Yeah, not a lot of pushing units here. We got some Warren on guard from Arcturus. I think I saw some Black Legion. Yes, indeed, 70 of the Black Legion. But yeah, not a lot of pushing units. Back here we got some heavy goblin crossbows. That's going to be really important, because there's another pathway through the mountains over here, which is kind of what I was laboriously zooming across the battlefield and making stops every 2 seconds to get to this point and show you. Was that there is a way to get around here, and especially for a unit like crossbows, this is going to be nasty. But anyway, let's move back on to the choke point battles. I know that's what you guys are probably wanting to see. Fight here between my exhausted and outnumbered Angmar units, not something you can often say for the orcs. Imladris is going to have no problem defeating me. Over here, though, things are a little bit more in the balance. Got some Olokai mixed in with some Halberds, some Sauron's Will. But the Imladris units, very elite. And very, very strong. A lot of chevrons. And it looks like some of the Eldarin Hedu Masil making a stand up here on the hill. These are some Noldor veterans who have seen countless battles throughout the ages, including the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. They are not going to go down easy. This is a very, very scary elite sword unit, but I think it has like 22 or like 23 attack or something like that, which is something that you normally see on 2 HP units that have half their number. But no, the Eldarin Hedu Masil are basically 2 HP elites without the extra HP and with more numbers, so very, very nasty. Minas Morgul bodyguard charging in against the Eldarin Hedu Masil, but honestly, even with the HP, the Eldarin Hedu Masil are going to have no problem slicing their way through these orc units. Although with the bow fire, that's going to be a bit of a problem. They are, I think, like 12 or 13 armor, so like those bows didn't really do a ton to them, as you just saw. But over time, even like 4 damage arrows have a chance to kill a unit with like 50 armor, so it will take its toll. Well, that first wave proving to be ineffective. Dreezy of the Dark Cloud now having to fall back on his heavy goblin archers. The evil forces are really, really having a hard time here. Still 10% difference. And we might see a mass push with some of the orc fodder. Got some other... We got some Farouk archers who I think still have ammunition. They might just be moving forward to get a better shot on the Eldarin Hedu Masil, who have not lost a single elf out of that unit in the entire time we've been looking at the rest of the battle. Very impressive. Let's see what we got going on over here. Cinder archers. Looks like they're out of ammunition. They were trying to help out the Eldarin Hedu Hatal, but not needed. The Hedu Hatal are holding their ground very, very well, and will continue to do so even against the masses of orcs that are being arrayed against them. Black Rooks of the Mountains being brought up, so a little bit of quality here from the orcs of the Misty Mountains, mixed in with the fodder. All this fodder is exhausted, though. I'm not sure that the Black Rooks of the Mountains on their own are going to be enough to penetrate an Eldarin Hedu Hatal spear line. Let's move back on over here. Looks like my forces are still in the front lines, but my allies have moved in to reinforce me with some serious numbers. Dreezy of the Dark Cloud here with his exhausted orcs in the Misty Mountain, putting some pressure on the Elven front line. Victory still certain, though. This is very, very scary indeed. Eldarin Hedu Quinga now out of ammunition. They've done all that they can, and they've done quite a lot. Still managing to maintain almost a 10%, well, a little bit less now, more like 8%. 8% difference between the forces. Looks like we got a mass push here. Some of the Black Legion of Barad... Oh, wow. I didn't realize that there was still a full company of Black Legion of Barad-dûr. That is huge. Look at that. They're just pancaking these Eldarin Hedu Hatal. It's not going to kill them necessarily. A lot of them will get back up, but it is going to force the Elven player to react. Now the Eldarin Hedu Masil, I think, are going to have to be thrown in there, lest the Eldarin Hedu Hatal be completely overrun. Well, it looks like Engsfetz doesn't see it, but he certainly does now. Although that push actually took its toll on a lot of those goblin units, and they're actually going to begin to rout. But yeah, a very nice push there from Arturos, keeping one of those units in reserve for the final defense was pretty... That was really smart, and it's going to be a decisive kind of move, I think, here. Because otherwise, the High Elves would have just been able to bottle us up for 1,000 years. Now the Noldor are being rushed in. I think we might see the Sindar archers maybe turn around and come and help out. What do we got over here? Some Mountain Orc Berserkers. The Sindar archers, of course, have their hands full elsewhere. Mountain Orc Berserkers running into the Eldarin Hedu Quinga and a unit here of the Imladris Blade Master. Some reserves here from Imladris, beating back another wave of Orcish infantry that has come around into the rear of their defenses, which is nasty. Personally, I think that they probably shouldn't be able to do this. It does make it really, really hard for the defenders to hold this final choke point. But of course, we're exhausted and depleted by this point anyway, so maybe it is needed. I don't know. Crossbows here firing down to the Eldarinwe Haruquinga. Ooh, that's going to hurt. It's going to do a lot of damage to them. But the Eldarinwe Haruquinga being Noldor, they have about 12 or so armor value. 12 or 13. So very, very nasty indeed. It looks like the Godelim Ainiaur have been held in reserve for just such an occasion, and they're going to be putting some fire into the Goblin crossbows up there on the ridge. More reinforcements, however, moving in. Got some Black Rooks to the mountains, charging their way down this hill. These are from Tundra's Fox. They're going to move in and try and envelop this blob here from Landra's Blade Masters and Eldarinwe Haruquinga, who are definitely getting the better of these Mountain Orc Berserkers. Over here, the Sindar Bodyguard, however, lower numbers, not doing quite so well, but they are managing to hold their ground against the Mountain Orc Berserkers reasonably well. And there's still a lot of High Elven forces still yet to come. There's a second unit of Gwythi Arthan, and of course, I believe there's 2 units of Smiths hanging around here as well. We have not seen them in battle yet. What do we got over here? Eldarinwe Haruquinga, along with the Eldarinwe Haruhatal and the Eldarinwe Harumasil, have managed to stabilize the situation a little bit. But there is an avenue open for the orcs of the Misty Mountains, well, just the orcs generally, to come in from the rear against this choke point. And at the same time, there's a big mass push going on here with pikemen and with swordsmen and with everything that we have left, trying to break this choke point. So some great line breaking tactics here on the part of the evil forces. Moving on over this way, however, this choke point has stood firm. How the Elder... Oh, wow. They had 96 the last time we were here. The Eldarinwe Harumasil are just so nasty. And some units actually routing through them. These guys are going to have like 300, 400 kills by the end of the battle, I'm sure. And they've held down this flank basically entirely on their own. They are very tired at this point, but they have a hill advantage, and they will be able to just swoop down here and massacre these remaining forces. Assuming that the other choke points are able to stand strong enough and prevent evil forces from coming in from behind them, which is definitely a danger right now. You can see that this line here is starting to bulge a little bit, just under the sheer amount of numbers that are still remaining to the evil forces. Over here, however, things are looking all right. If only the elves were able to keep this avenue closed, this choke point here, I think, would have been able to stand a lot better and for a lot longer. They probably would have beaten us. But thanks to some line-breaking tactics here from the evil forces, they are managing to bring it back, which is what this battle was supposed to be about. Strategy and teamwork and all that kinds of good stuff. Yeah, the Noldor here holding it down. Still another line of defense here with the Gwythi Arthand. Other end we had Masil. Some Gwythi Mirdain have been brought forward here. Looks like the Sindar Archers have now managed to bring it back, and the Mountain Orc Berserkers have been repulsed. Black Orcs of the Mountains getting massacred here by the Elven forces. I think the crossbows have been managed, or have had to pull back. The elves have managed to drive them off that ridge. Ooh, still some nasty stuff here. Tundra's Fox has a unit of White Uruk Fearmonger, so there's still a fair amount of infantry that the Orcs of the Misty Mountains can throw down here and just distract the reserves and prevent them from moving to the choke points where they're going to be most needed. Although at this point, I think it's basically well in hand. I would actually, if I was the Elven player, I would be moving forward with some of my reserves here to try and hold this choke point here. The Gwythi Arthand applied right here along this front, along with the Smiths in the middle. That would be enough to bog these forces down, and to keep the line contiguous, and yeah, really make the orcs pay. I think ultimately that would be the thing that wins them this particular engagement. Although I say that, there's a fresh company here of the Blackback Berserkers, and look at this, more reinforcements. Holy crackers! Arcturus and the other evil forces have really managed their reserves very well so far. What do we got here? Some Temple Executioners. Ooh, there's some nasty stuff yet to come. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for the defenders. The attackers have managed to bring it back here against the High Elves. 75% to 80. They still have a 6% lead. Oh, there's just so many orcs that have died here, but I think the numbers are going to start to tell. And this is not going to be an easy fight for Ingsvets to pull back. More on Hali Mullahs have managed to break through, now coming into the rear against this choke point. That's really the last thing that the Ingsvets wants at this point. What do we got here? Tundra's Fox bringing up a very tired unit of Mountain Uruk Blades. to try and surround the Elder Inui Hedu Masil. A really good move there on the part of Thunderous Fox, but they're just holding it down. Look at these guys. They're real heroes here. Look at the amount of orcish dead that they have created. Like, that's just awesome. Really love seeing these elite units in their elements. We got here the Blade Master is being attacked from the rear by the Orc Mauler. Says the victory is certain, but honestly, the skill on the Eladris Blade Masters, they will be able to pull that back. Although, with all of these extra forces now pouring in, I think the first line of the High Elven defense is gone. There's really nothing else here, so now might be a good time to try and pull out with some of these Elder Inui Hedu Quinga, save their numbers. The Elder Inui Hedu Hatal down to 5. They're basically a lost cause, but you can definitely save the Hedu Quinga for a later date. Oh man, there's just so many of these Orcish forces still left. I'm really surprised by that, just by how many reserves they still have, and how many orcs have died. Yeah, down to a 5% difference, much less less significant than the 13 or so that the elves had on the orcs moving into the High Elven defense in the initial stages. And Eladris Blade Masters might actually rout here. That's pretty scary. They will, of course, fight to the death, because they're surrounded on all sides. A lot of sentries here. They've really managed to exact a terrible toll, though. We can't really see it because they're still fighting over the front line. Like, this has been pretty static the whole time, but there's a lot of dead orcs in here as well. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at the damage they did. That's like easily 1,000 or 1,500 or so orcs that were dead in that choke point. Yeah, no, the orcs are through the front line. And I think this really comes down to how Engsvitz ended up using his reserves. Granted, a lot of them were being distracted. There's the other... No, I'm sure there's another unit of White Arthland here. Maybe that's both of them formed up side by side. But in any case, as I was saying, it really comes down to, I think, how Engsvitz used his reserves. He had a lot to deal with the evil forces being able to come in from behind, but I don't know. I would have brought some of my more elite units forward. I would have tried to use them to hold the first choke point, because I don't know that after losing them, I don't know that he has the numbers to really hold this very wide front down, especially not when the evil forces are able to come in from the rear. So I would have committed basically whatever I needed to hold these guys at bay, and then moved everything else forward. But again, that's hindsight, right? Another company up here of the Gwythi Myrdain, who have pushed the Orcish forces back. Actually scattered the Heavy Goblin crossbowmen, so they're no longer an issue. Great move there on the part of Engsvitz, really taking the initiative and not waiting to be caught like a badger in a trap to take a page of the Theoden's book. And yeah, moving up there with his Gwythi Myrdain and scattering the Goblin forces that were threatening his rear. Mighty Rook Fearmongers surrounded here. Heavy Goblin Spears thinking about routing even with this Inspire unit nearby. It seems like the elves are going to have their backlines under control in just a few moments. What we got here? There it is, the second company of Gwythi Arthand, backed up now with some Gwythi Myrdain. Not a ton of elven forces remaining, but the ones that are still here are some seriously nasty elites. Gwythi Arthand backed up by another company of two companies of Gwythi Myrdain is just so scary. And I think now I can safely say that the pushing units are gone completely. The final unit, Blackwatch, or Black Legion of Barad-dûr, must surely have perished here in the struggle with the Noldor. Let's see what's going on over on this end. Looks like they've managed to break their way through. Temple Executioner is moving in to put the final nail in the coffin of this Elder Inui Hedu Masil. But they have just stood for so long against such crazy... Look at this, they actually destroyed this unit up here of the Mount Uruk Blades. Surrounded and exhausted and heavily reduced. Down by about half, actually. And they've just managed to fight their way out of everything the Orcish factions have thrown at them. I have to say, I'm so impressed by that. I love the Elder Inui Hedu Masil. We got here Temple Executioners. They're going to win that fight. This is going to be too much, I think, for the exhausted Elder Inui Hedu Masil to handle. But they'll put up a fight. And they'll take some HP off these Temple Executioners, and certainly make them fight long enough that they will deal some serious damage to their fatigue, which is pretty significant. Minas Morgul chosen. Oh, what do you know? I keep saying there's no pushing units left, but then, you know, another company of spearmen will show up and prove me wrong. Mortar and Archer somehow still having ammunition. It seems like a lot of the remaining Orcish forces have been thrown already against this final line of defense here. What do we got? Eldarin, not Eldarin ways, just some Imladris Blade Masters, along with Sindar Archers moving forward to reinforce the line here. And I think that the Elves are going to be able to win, at least on this end. There is still some things to be concerned about. I think maybe there's a possibility of getting in through here, maybe. So there might be another kind of hole in the Elven defenses, but I don't know if anyone realizes that. Let's see what they got left over as well. Gothelim Einyaur still have ammunition. Eldarin Wehedu Quingan, another company of Gwythi Myrdain. Does he have 3 of them? One there? No, he just has 2. But he'll be able to move those into basically wherever he needs to. Remaining company of Eldarin Wehedu Quingan being thrown in alongside the Gwythi Arthans. Well, this is a desperate struggle. Let's get right down and dirty with it. I know you guys like that. Man, those Gwythi Arthan are just so strong. Well, it seems like another mass push is going to happen here. Using the mass of the Mordant Halberds to try and muscle their way through the Gwythi Arthans. More line-breaking tactics here, and it seems like Engsfitz is going to get caught unawares here again. There's a couple times now in this battle that's happened. And we've been using those tactics consistently, so it's kind of unfortunate. This could definitely have been seen coming. You see a big block of higher mass units like Halberds moving towards your lines. Well, it's pretty obvious what they're going to do. I think now would be a good time to commit the Gwythi Myrdain forward to try and preserve the numbers of the Gwythi Arthan. So, well, there you go. Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Engsfitz is going to move forward with his Gwythi Arthan to try and bottle up this little gap here that's been created by the push of those halberds. Gwythi Arthan over on this end, backed up with Imladris Blade Masters and Sindar Archers. They're going to win. Let's take a look at what reserves the evil forces still have. Not a lot. Mornon Archers. Melkor's Chosen. That's pretty nasty. Mornon Infantry. There's not a ton. It has to be said. There's not a huge number of the evil forces still remaining. 92 to 88, so the High Elves are pulling it back again. 6% or 4% difference there, rather. Another mass push. I think now would be a good time to move in those Eldarin Wehedu Quingan. What are these guys doing? Blackback Mountain Berserkers. They're doing all right. Another company of Gwythi Myrdain. Looks like they're going to be maneuvering themselves onto the left wing, which is a good idea. And it seems like the Orcish forces are managing to kind of scoot around the line here, so some reinforcements are going to be needed. I don't know if throwing them in a blob like this is the best idea. I definitely would have spread them out so that they can cover a much wider area and prevent the Orcs from being able to push their way through. But yeah, just throwing them in a blob like that, not the best idea. Gothelim Einyaur, now out of ammunition, moving themselves onto the other wing to get ready to do the same. Man, these Highland forces just putting up a heroic struggle. Let's take a look at the percentages now. Still 4%. Pretty even. But if that keeps up, inevitably the High Elves will win. Some Temple Guard. I didn't even realize the Mordor had Temple Guard. Or maybe I did. I don't know if I called them out in the army breakdown part of the video. But, yeah, they are here. I think there's some Executioners on the front line as well. Maybe that's just an officer. Yeah, because the Temple Guard don't have that upgraded model. So either they're an officer or there's some more Temple Inquisitors on the front line here as well, which is surprising because the High Elves are still holding on really well. Temple Executioners are a very nasty unit, and held in reserve like this, fresh companies of them, it's pretty significant in a late point in the battle. We have some routing? Is that what's happening here? Oh, there goes the Lothlorien General, finally getting cut down by one of the Blackback Berserkers. Poor Haldir. He just dies in everything. It's like Sean Bean. Gwythi Myrdain giving it to the Blackback Berserkers, though, to avenge their fallen ally. It's hard to tell. It says that defeat is certain for the Gwaithir Myrdain, but don't know if I believe it. How many Cinder Archers are still at? 15. Man, they've just been involved in a lot of stuff. I'm almost positive that they were hanging out with Lindon as well, and bugged out of the battle a little bit early. But if that's true, they participated in 3 lines of defense so far. So that's kind of cool. The unit's got a real story to it. There you go. What do you know? A little duel here between a Goblin's King bodyguard and one of the Sindar archers. Get him. I really like those dual-wielding animations. They're a bit slow, though, which is why the dual-wielding units tend to have such high melee defense. Makes them a little bit more worth it. But it is something I think you might see change in the future. The dual-wielding animations will probably end up getting sped up a little bit. Ooh, there goes one of the Orcish generals. That's a big deal. Let's see whose general it was. It looked like Azog. So maybe it was mine? Maybe my forces got, like, pulled into this just by the general kind of swing of battle? I don't know. It might have been the Misty Mountains general. I think Azog is the Misty Mountains general as well as Angmar's. Actually, no, it is the Misty Mountains general. I'm getting totally confused. Angmar has their, like, Black Numenorian. So yeah, the Misty Mountains general just fallen. Not as significant, I think, as maybe they want it to be. Just because there is a unit of drummer trolls nearby. And they're a nice little morale buff stick. Not many of them left, but even if there's one, they still get the buff. What do we got here? Well, looks like the line has been broken. Again, Engsfist just lets this happen, and I don't understand why. That would have been easily blocked off by his unit of Gothelim Einiauer, and they would have been able to keep his line intact. I don't know why he's pulling out of there. I really don't understand the tactics here from the High Elven player. And he's just throwing the rest of his units under the bus. I mean, there's 33 Gwaithir Arthan there. Less on the other side. Yeah, a bit less. I don't know. I would have tried to hold it. I think in a straight grind like that, it would have been okay. Maybe he's... where's he going? Yeah, he's going back here. Maybe he thinks that he can hold off the remaining forces in a smaller choke point like this, but honestly, you're losing troops. You're throwing troops away and then hoping that your remaining troops will be able to hold the line. I mean, if they can't do it together, they're not going to be able to do it alone. I don't know if that makes any sense. In any case, the High Elves have pulled back, and Mordor has finally broken. Mostly Mordor and the remaining Misty Mountain forces, who I think are the only 2 players left on the field, are going to be left ascendant here on this final choke point. What do we got? A few Gwaithir Myrdain, only winded. I don't know, this is going to be tough. Blackbite Mountain Berserker is exhausted, however. Still a nasty unit. But the AP, particularly effective against the High Elves, what do we got here? When charged from the Melkor's chosen against the Gwaithir Myrdain. Unfortunate. Looks like they're actually going to give chase. I probably wouldn't have done that. Yeah, there's not a lot of options here for the High Elves to fall back to. But, yeah, I definitely would not have chased those guys. Possibly a bit of an accident there, a miss micro, something like that. Are the Sindar Archers still here? My god, there's one left. It's that one guy. Goblin Infantry, some remaining Black Heroes of the Mountain. This is really, really tense. Look at that, 98 to 92. You know what? I just realized I've been reading the percentages wrong this entire battle. I've been reading the allies killed as the red team, but in fact it's the other way around. So that's my bad. I'm sure many of you have noticed that. I'm going to hear all about that in the comments, but oops, forgive me. Still, 98 to 92. Those are respectable numbers. Blackbite Mountain Berserkers getting hammered by the Gwaithir Myrdain. Look at this. There's enough evil forces left that I think they will be able to ultimately overwhelm the remaining Elven forces. Although if they lose their elites on the front line, I mean, there's like more non-infantry and stuff left over. Nothing significant. But Melkor's chosen. Yeah, I think this is over. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward a little bit. Temple Executioners up here. Looks like the Godelim Ainiaur have been committed to fight the Temple Executioners, who are exhausted. So the Godelim Ainiaur, I would imagine, would have the advantage here, but I think they might be a little bit spread out, fighting a few units at once. Indeed, they are. Yeah, but let's go ahead, fast forward it just a little bit more. We're down to the final few frames of the battle, final 2,200 or so. Oh, what do you know? It's Eladon and Elro here. They're the officer models for the Godelim Ainiaur, which is kind of cool. The twin sons of Elrond Half-Elven. Well, the Temple Executioners are actually losing here to the Godelim Ainiaur, although more forces being poured in here. I think it's only a matter of time before the High Elves crack under the pressure. Oh man, in the center, the Gwathi Mirdain have just been herded into a bit of a killing zone here. Being completely surrounded now. Some Godelim Ainiaur are actually on the front line, so Angsfit has basically spread them across his entire line. Which is a bit of a desperation move. I find that it's not a good idea to spread a small unit like that over a large area. You want to try and keep them in a smaller area. It really does reduce their effectiveness somewhat, but hey. This is a desperate situation, and it calls for desperate measures. I think that's the Elven General. That would indeed be the Elven General. Looks like the Gwathi Mirdain are routing. Ah, what? No way. That's a hard thing to do. The loss of their general and just so many of these units around them, including some fear-causing units like the Blackback Mountain Berserkers. It is going to be enough to break their morale. That's something you see every day. Or not something you see every day. And there we have it. Final percentage, 93 to 100%. Very, very well done by the defending armies. Like I said, this is hard mode. They were outnumbered by 2 armies. And look at some of the kills here. High Elves coming in at the end, but nearly 7,000 kills. Basically an equal amount for both Lothlorien and for Lindon on the first and second tiers respectively. And yeah. Well done to everybody who played. That was a really entertaining battle to watch. Great to participate in, and it's something that I think you guys have been missing for a while. I know you guys wanted a big scenario. We haven't had like the massive kind of battles. Well, here you go. Here's one. And I also have some sieges coming up at some point too. They're just really long, so I've kind of been avoiding them a little bit. 50,000 frame battles. They're very much an endurance contest for my poor voice. But in any case, my name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.